can't assume people's gender identity, and I think the best thing to do is just ask.
Yeah.
How do you identify? And never assume that someone's presentation matches how they identify.
Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Latoya Williams, and we're back for our episode this season of Queer Conversations. And I'm here with our guest, Demissew. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you did.
Awesome. Why don't you tell our guests a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you for having me on your show. I'm the executive director of the Pride Center of Maryland. We're actually the third oldest LGBT center in the country, if you will. We're incorporated in 1977. And in that time, we've gone through lots of different types of rebrandings and name changes, always to reflect the times. And this most recent rebranding is our effort to be much more inclusive and representative of the diversity within the sexual and gender minority community that we serve.
Awesome. Now, can you provide your social media handles to our guests?
Absolutely. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is all at Pride Center of Maryland.
Awesome. So for this particular episode, I've decided to kind of get past the hot topics and the sizzling subjects and go right into our interview with Mimi. There's a lot of things going on with the Pride Center of Maryland, so I want to highlight all of those things. So there are a lot of things going on with Pride this year.
Sure.
So even though it's a little bit after the fact, I want you to speak a little bit about what is in store for Pride.
Well, we have a lot of different artists lined up that for the community. We have Youth Pride that's going to be a part of this Pride. Would have had Youth Pride within the same footprint of the main Pride event on Saturday.
Now, is that a new thing, the Youth Pride?
The Youth Pride isn't new, but it had always been part of Pride, but it had always been part of Pride in a way that didn't have enough visibility and presence.
I see.
And that was done in a way so that we could keep youth safe, but in keeping youth safe, I think we've also just excluded them too much from having any accessibility. So this year we're trying something new, and we're going to make it part of the actual footprint, but at the other end of the footprint, so they'll be right in the middle of everything, but still separated and safe. So we have that going. We have a pet parade that we started last year that people really love. And I will say, I'm talking about your actual animal pets that you bring. People pets. I want to. So that's.
Let's be clear.
We have to be clear. Cats, dogs, whatever. Those types of pets. And then we're doing another 11 block parade. We have Elder Pride and Family Pride on Sunday. So,
that's the Pride in the Park, right? At Druid Hill Park?
Right, and we still have the Lady Lisa stage happening on Sundays. And so I think what's really wonderful about Baltimore Pride, which is really, I like to call it Maryland's Pride. It's the largest pride for the state.
In the state, right?
Yeah, and we really try to make it representative for all the different generations and different groups that show up. Families with kids, families with chosen families and elders and youth. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I've lived in Baltimore now for about 7 years, and I've gone to Pride almost every year. I think I've only missed it maybe 1 year out of those 7 years. And I can say I've noticed progressively how things have changed and have become more inclusive. So kudos to you all and what you're doing over there.
Thank you. So Pride is just one of the cultural events that we throw in a year. We actually have 3 cultural events at the center.
Oh, awesome.
We do something for Women's History Month. We also do something for Black History Month.
Okay.
And so for Black History and for Women's History Months, we will actually honor different community activists within the community. And then we'll also do a nice little evening, and then we'll also do a town hall to hear from those particular segments. And also as a center, we one of the big things that we work on is HIV testing, and we also we have case managers, and we have about 30 different programs that we run on a monthly basis. And right now, in a given year, and we've been increasing the amount of folks that we serve. That last year, for instance, we served 37,000 people.
37,000.
The year prior, we served about 35,000.
So it's increasing.
It's increasing, yeah. And
so when you're saying serving 37,000 people, is that through the case managers, or is that through participating in events?
It's through cultural events, it's through programs, it's through case management, it's through everything.
Now, what are the primary responsibilities of the case managers?
So case managers at the center are primarily folks that are doing wraparound services.
Okay.
But the idea is to really provide people, so it's linkage to care is what it's called. But it's really just to advocate for your health, to provide health literacy. You don't have to be in crisis to see a case manager.
Okay.
It's not like that at all. But we always do encourage testing.
Okay.
Just know your status. So some real small factoids for Maryland, for instance, a lot of the new infection rates that we're seeing of people testing positive for HIV have been positive for 7 years.
Really?
Just didn't know it. So we really try to encourage folks when they come into the center to just know your status.
Right. So is there a way that you can find out how long they've been positive based on their test?
Well, I think when you do the confirmatory test.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. The health department. So at any rate, so we do that, and so HIV is still an issue for the state of Maryland. So we definitely want to focus on that. Other than that, though, we provide different types of programming for men, women, trans folks, youth, elders. Our programming is separated through either recovery services, arts and culture, different types of social meetups, and some are like support groups. And also one of the cool things that we do at the center is if you go through our programming offering and you don't see something that speaks to you,
create it.
Exactly. And we'll throw money behind it and we'll promote it for you.
That's even better.
Yeah, so that's part of our mission, because again, I can't say this enough. Visibility is affirmation. So if you don't see yourself,
create a space for yourself.
Right, and we'll help you.
Now, I know that there have been some really great developments with the Pride Center of Maryland. Recently, I saw an article written on you where you all received some funding.
Right, I went in front of the Maryland State Legislature and I made a bid for a bond bill. I asked for $1 million and I was awarded $500,000.
That's so awesome.
Right, and so we're going to take that money, and I've partnered with a private developer where I want to bring that money and invest it in Baltimore. Okay. And the idea is to create an LGBT center for the state of Maryland.
Wow.
And we'll have services there, youth services. We really, youth homelessness is a big deal.
Right.
And a lot of folks from our community are the ones that end up being homeless because parents might have issues with their identities. And so we definitely want to, and I think having a state center located in Baltimore will really help combat that.
Right.
So the idea is to really have a space, a building that the community owns. And that, again, like I said, visibility is affirmation.
That is amazing. Kudos to you for doing such great work over there.
Thank you.
And so will the building be able to house homeless youth?
So we definitely want the building to also help youth homelessness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So on that note, we are going to take a quick break, pay some bills, and we'll be right back after this. We're back with Mimi. Thank you again for coming in.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. So the theme of this season has been about LGBTQ plus identities. And every episode, we've kind of talked to different people who are representing different parts of the community. And I thought because you have such a background in this particular area, that you would be the perfect person to come on and kind of help us bring this all full circle. So I'm going to ask you some questions about some particular identities, and please share with us and just kind of educate our guests, that's you, about LGBTQ plus folks and how we identify and what's comfortable, and maybe some politically correct correspondence when we're talking to folks. So I had Merrick on board. We love Merrick. And I believe Merrick is on the board for the center as well, correct?
He's the board president.
He's the board president. All right, Merrick, yes. So, and Merrick represents the trans community very well. He is oftentimes the voice that we hear, at least I hear, on Facebook and other areas when we're talking about trans folks and their issues. So what would be the best way to communicate with someone who is trans and you don't quite know what to say or how to say it? Like, what would be the best questions to ask?
So I hear what you're saying. And I'm not trans. I can't speak for trans folks. And and the one thing, though, I think is we can't assume people's gender identity. And I think the best thing to do is just ask.
Yeah.
How do you identify? And never assume that someone's presentation matches how they identify.
Okay.
And for instance, at the center, we have sign-in sheets, and we just ask. And we'll ask for, we track the different demographics. So we'll ask race and we'll ask gender identity. But we don't do the types of questions where we're asking you to check
a box, right?
Because we don't know, and these terms are constantly changing. So we'd rather just you tell us. Tell us how you identify racially. Tell us how you identify like in your sexuality, or how you identify in your gender. But we leave that blank because it's really important to let people tell you.
Now, can you speak to the difference between gender and sexuality? Because I think a lot of times cisgender folks, straight folks, get them confused.
Sure. So someone's gender identity is, so first of all, I guess, how far do we go back? Gender is really a social construct, right? And even in America, we just take a look at how the roles of women and what femininity meant in America.
Yeah.
Pre-World War II, femininity meant you're out there working, you have to provide cash. And then again, we'll also have to talk about how that definition probably didn't change too much for Black women. Black women are always expected to work and bring
home the bacon. Right, yeah.
So, but then after World War II, though, we do see the shift on femininity and what it means to be a woman changed, right? Even the appearance changed. So just we have to, when we talk about gender identity, we should also just keep that in mind, that gender in itself is a social construct. But having said that, gender identity is how whether you identify as a woman, a man, or gender non-conforming or non-binary, but how that's that, I identify as a woman, right? And that's my gender identity. Now, sexuality is really just that. Who are you having sex with?
Or who you like to have sex with.
Right, so we're talking about, I think the difference is between action and identity.
Okay. I think the big question, at least what I hear from cisgender folks, is that they get the anatomy and the sexuality and the gender identity all confused and all mixed up, and how they all have to align. And one of the things I've learned working in this community is that it does not have to. But that's hard to communicate to a cisgender person.
Well, even so, just thinking about that. So I'm a woman, right?
Yeah.
And my representation as a woman doesn't conform to how women should present. And so, just even like taking roles in leadership or marrying another woman or these types of things don't go along with being a woman, or expecting my voice to be heard and demanding that. Again, that doesn't go along with gender roles of what a woman is.
Right.
So it's hard to say that I'm cisgender because I'm not, because there isn't only one way for genders to be present, and I think we always have to keep that in mind. And regarding anatomy, we have all different types of anatomies. So
very true.
We have intersex folks too, and we shouldn't leave people out of the conversation. So I think, I think we should really just try to get away from a space of cultural competence where people, because I think what you're coming from a place of like, well, what is it? Tell me what this is and tell me what that is. I can't tell you. I know what I know. I know what I know for myself, but I really want to operate and move through this world through a place of cultural humility. So I keep asking questions and I want to keep learning, and I'm not going to be able to tell you what your identity is or your sexuality is,
right?
And I can't assume that for you. But I'll
I'll listen to you.
Exactly.
Right.
You can tell me, and I think that's all we can do. Like when we're operating with different people, just listen. Let them tell you.
So the best thing is to ask the question first.
Sure.
To whomever it is, and hopefully the person is not offended, but is open to sharing some information with you so that you can better communicate with them and understand who they are and what their expectation for the world.
And always keep the understanding that that person is sharing their experience. And because, I can speak for myself as a woman. I do not speak for
All women, correct, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And, I'm a Black woman. I do not speak for
all black
people,
women,
right?
yes.
And that's really important. And I think we should really stay away from trying to clump marginalized identities and expect that, Merrick is great, but Merrick isn't
all trans men. Right, absolutely.
Right.
Now, can you speak to, because you mentioned intersex, and I don't quite know exactly what intersex means. So I don't want to look for a Webster's version of that, but if you can kind of just explain to us what intersex means and how it...
Intersex folks have both genitalia.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. Okay. So we also talked about non-binary. So can you explain a little bit about non-binary folks and how to best communicate with non-binary people as well?
Okay, again, the best way to communicate with non-binary people is ask
the question.
Right. And I'm not going to speak for non-binary people, but I can give you a small definition, but I also want you to understand that definition is always ever growing and but simply put, non-binary folks identify with multiple genders.
Okay. Now, one of the things, that's my mother, she and I talk a lot, and one of the questions was all of the letters in the alphabet, in the LGBT alphabet, and how it's this running joke that, it's going to be another one added next week, that type of thing. Has that been difficult in any way with trying to establish services for folks, knowing that the names are changing and the identifications are changing?
Well, that's why we use the term sexual and gender minorities, because LGBTQ is ever growing, and in its attempt to ever grow and be representative, still also has this history of excluding certain racial groups. And then you try to use other terms like same gender love. But then again, that doesn't really, incorporate the entire community. So as a center, we just did away with it. We don't even use it at all.
Don't use either one.
Yeah, we use sexual and gender minorities. And again, it's not the prettiest, but it's the most inclusive.
What are some of the challenges you faced working at the center? Some. Not all of them, just some.
Did the camera catch that? So I came to the center in 2016, and it was under new leadership. And it was at a time where, it was in financial disarray. It had no organizational structure, and it was just in a place where it had let down the community, and as an organization itself, it wasn't functional, right? So I came into the center at a time where it needed to be rebuilt.
Right.
And so there's always challenge in rebuilding, because you're rebuilding trust with the community, you're rebuilding trust with your partners, trust with the city where you serve folks. So, and rebuilding trust and trying to rebuild your reputation is challenging.
Yes.
And also when you're doing that type of rebuilding, what's also happening internally is you're going through change management. You're bringing in a new culture. You're bringing in a culture of functionality. You're bringing in a culture of production. You're bringing in a culture of service. And that also is always met with resistance.
Some resistance, yeah.
And when these things are happening and the face is a Black woman,
it's not always received well. I completely understand.
There's also a lot of unique challenges to that too. And then also, being, a working mother too, it's very, at the end of the day, we're living in America and working in America. So there's still similar challenges
almost in every career. Yeah.
That I was having. So that's where
you're so politically correct. You're so I love that. But I completely understand where you're coming from. I think that a lot of times our voice as women, particularly as Black women, some folks try to silence us or try to ignore or okay, yeah, that's great. And then just, you know. And
or rephrase what you just said.
exactly.
And take credit for it.
Oh my God, she knows me.
And
Because
it to be a woman at work.
yeah, it absolutely happens a lot. I think that, and then I think one of the things that I struggle with is being firm and being stern and then being considered aggressive. Or, you know, you get the stereotype angry, you know, type of thing.
Well, first of all, Black America isn't angry enough. Like, how can you not be angry when you're living in a
Here,
system,
yes.
right, of
Yeah.
just so much
Systematic,
messaging,
yes.
like every day. I get scared to go to the store with my son if we're going to go down the diaper aisle because I don't want him to see all the white babies and think that that's the only way that, you know, and I think about that. But that's anti-Black messaging right there.
Yeah.
That we can't have, you know, our faces on simple things. And so.
Like Huggies.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
being arrested for having cookouts, being arrested for being a child, being shot and having no legal recourse. How can you not be angrier? But that's one thing. But as a Black woman or as a Black person, you're in the workplace. It's just how you're seen. You're already being seen in so many negative ways.
Right.
That you're policing your tone. You're policing the way, your stature. And it's just all of these different things that you're taught to do to accommodate, and it's ridiculous. Right. And there's a lot of pressure that you're carrying, unnecessarily so. Just the other day, I was at this training, and it was really heartbreaking, but not surprising. that they were talking about the things that destroy organizations is white fragility, racism, sexism. And unconscious bias that people aren't aware of, right? And then under unconscious bias, they indicated that 70% of white people immediately when they see a Black person think of something negative and think of something, you know, ugly and horrible and immediately have negative feelings towards
70%.
70% of white people.
I say it's higher.
However, 50% of Black people feel the same way.
I don't agree. I mean, and I understand it, but I think that the white number is higher.
Sure, the white number is higher, but
and I think the Black number actually is higher.
But 50%. But from this study, that's what it shows.
Yeah.
And so that's really surprising. And so even folks in our own community have internalized this messaging. And
wait. So I think I misunderstood. So the number you're saying that 70% of white people, when they see a Black person, they immediately get something negative. And when a Black person sees another Black person, 50%. Okay, because I'm thinking when Black people see white people, but
no,
okay.
When Black people see each other.
Wow, but that's internalized. That's just
my point.
Yeah. Wow.
So I mean,
that's startling.
Yeah, it is. So, but this is what it means to be in a system of this constant anti-Black messaging.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, do you remember Katrina?
Yeah.
And images of Black people going to stores looking for food were called looters and vandals and thugs.
Yeah.
The same image of white people. It's like, oh, looking for food, trying to find sustenance, like protecting the family, like.
Right.
When you consistently get this messaging without any kind of critical analysis, how could you not internalize it? So I'm not unhappy or shocked that I'm not here to criticize Black folks for feeling this way, but I am going to ask us as a community to challenge that and to unlearn that.
Right. I mean, and that's difficult to do. I think that until the messaging changes, it'll be more so the responsibility of parents or people in the household on the level of this is not true, or turn it off, or even just have a conversation with your family to say, this is just not a real thing. And that's the difficult part, and until we educate ourselves, then we can educate our children coming behind us.
Right.
So one of the other things I wanted to ask you is working in the Baltimore City community. I know that it has a certain set of challenges as well. Have you had any help or conversations with Baltimore City government about working together to kind of make it a little bit easier for people living here?
The center works very closely with Baltimore City Health Department.
Okay.
Also we work in tandem with Baltimore City Services for certain events, and they've been very helpful. But but I've also met a lot of the different leaders within the different departments within the city, and there's always an openness and willingness to help. If
Oh,
they
that's
understand
awesome.
the problem, and they would like to throw their support and guide us in, trying to find different ways that they can support. So what I'm finding is that at least the doors are opening now.
Oh,
People are talking to us and sitting with
and
us.
listening.
So I am pretty happy with that.
How do you feel the trend has gone as far as media and how LGBTQ folks, sexual and gender minorities are portrayed in the media?
For instance, everyone wanted to write about the center when it was in dysfunction and crazy. But now that we're fine, no one cares about the things that we're doing.
It's not good news.
Like no one cares. Like for instance, we had a job fair in May where I asked, if you want to come and become a corporate Pride sponsor, then you have to participate in this job fair and hire from our community, because there's no better support than hiring from our own community.
Right.
And you just can't be around for the weekend.
Right, making them self-sufficient.
Right, and so we did that, but no one wanted to cover that. But I'm sure.
But that's great, though. I mean, not great that they didn't cover, but like to me, that's newsworthy.
Right, and so I guess when it comes to media and what gets covered isn't. I don't understand media well enough, but what I do know is that I think the good stories of what we do to empower ourselves don't always get covered. So does that answer your question? I don't know.
Kind of, sort of. I mean, I guess, the challenge is, at least what I'm taking from what you're saying, is that the challenge is with how our community is portrayed in the media is that it's not portrayed in a positive light. Well, they're kind of highlighting some of the negative things.
I mean, I think they'll always cover Pride, but there's more to us than Pride, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think those stories don't always get shown, and that's what I'm saying. So it's not that we're always being vilified, but we're certainly, there isn't coverage when we're talking about different agencies doing work to empower communities.
Right. So other than Pride and other than Women's History Month and Black History Month, which I believe that's like February and March, correct? Are there other things that are happening in the center throughout the rest of the year as far as big events?
Sure. I mean, last year we had 43 different events.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah, so I was just talking about our cultural events. So every year we will have several different types of events. Halloween parties, December parties, so by all means, buy your tickets to our December gala event.
Buy your tickets.
All right. Every single dollar goes to support programs. And at any rate, we do. And another reason why we can do that is because part of our mission, like I said, is to serve the community. And so we will provide access to the community if the community wants to do their own different types of events and hold it at the center.
You must be reading my mind, because I was going to ask you about how you were telling me earlier that there's a partnership that's developing with organizations who are doing events and the center's advertising for them.
Oh, we were talking about Pride events.
Okay.
So during Pride, we have the Pride Planning Committee. Amazing, wonderful group of folks. One of the committees is the events committee, and the events committee the purpose is twofold. One is to find different smaller fundraising events to generate money for the center so that we could expand our programming, and that piece will advertise an event that's a paid event.
Right.
However, if you're having a different event that's simply that's not paid, and it's the purpose of that event is just to bring people together, well, we'll advertise that event for free so that it can get you greater coverage, so that we can help, promote different marginalized communities.
And is that only during Pride, or is that something that could potentially be offered for other events throughout the year?
So maybe by December, we would have already had that page up where we have community events. Because we have been talking about that, and so we are developing that, yes.
Awesome. And we have one more commercial, so stay right there. We will be right back with more with Mimi. couple more questions, Mimi. So how do you identify?
Identify as a Black woman.
I love Mimi. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to our guests before we close?
Sure. So please come visit the Pride Center. We try very hard to serve our community effectively with an open heart. And part of that means that we're always working on ourselves too, because we understand that if we're living and working in America, there's a lot of different unconscious biases that we've also internalized. So we try to work on that and make sure that when we're serving you, that we're doing so with a clean heart and leading by example also.
Awesome. So once again, you can find Mimi on Facebook.
Right, you can find the Pride Center of Maryland. So it's pridecenterofmd.org. That's our website. And then that's also our social media handles for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we also have a YouTube channel.
Oh.
You can find everything online on our website. Please come visit the center.
Awesome. And once again, thank you so much, Mimi, for coming in and sitting with us today and sharing your time. I appreciate it. I know you're a working mom. You got to go get the little one. And thank you all for tuning in again on another episode of Queer Conversations this season.
So remember to like, share, and comment on this particular episode. Follow us on all of our social media and look out for updates as we prepare for season 3. Remember, we are changing the world one queer conversation at a time.